In this session, we are going to start off with a topic of advanced Java, which can be included in core Java as well, but usually it is an advanced concept called as Java database connectivity. So before we start, whatever you know, whatever ideas you have about database, can anyone tell me what is a database? Whatever you know, or whatever you think or you guess, what is database?
Used to store data in well-arranged form.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
Like whatever we do in front end, the data gets stored in the back end where which is database, where we store and process data.
Yes, correct. But you might have studied file handling in Python, I suppose, or you might have heard of this. We have studied it in C language also. So if we use file handling, there also we can store our data. Then what do you think? Why do we go for database instead of files? Any idea? See, main
Large
purpose.
data.
Yes, tell me. Yes, yes, Pratik, go ahead.
For large amount of data.
Okay. So actually the reason is the way in which we store in the files, it may be an unstructured format. There's no particular structure, right? We can write any number of sentences or whatever. And the way you access it is sort of limited. It's not that you can do many operations. You can read, write, append. Those are the basic operations. And then mainly it is for storing purpose only. But when you use databases and when you use a system to handle the database, which is the database management system, that system allows you to store the data, retrieve the data, means store reading and writing can be done in a way, you can say that. Then to perform operations like altering the tables, in databases we have tables and not just the text like how we have in notepad, not the text files. We have tables over there. In the tables, if we have, then we can definitely say that we are storing the data in a particular structure in a tabular format. So storing data, retrieving data is the main focus actually. Other than that, updating the values, inserting new values, deleting values from the records, and many other operations are possible. Not only these, many other operations. Okay, so a database helps you to efficiently, it is actually the definition, you can say that a database is a collection of the related information stored in a well organized manner in order to access or retrieve the data efficiently. That is our main focus. And there are many other advantages also, which I'll show you one by one. Now just ignore the other things that you get to see in this. I've not created any PPT, I didn't have time for that. But if you see some other things in the images, then just ignore that. Okay, so you know what is database now. Now to handle this database, you need a database management system, DBMS. This database management system is nothing but a software or a program or a system or a tool, you can say, which will help you to interact with the database. You cannot directly access the database, but through the database management system you can access the database. And together, database management system along with the database is called as database system. Clear till here? What is database? What is DBMS? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now there are different examples of databases. You might have heard of MySQL, then Microsoft Office Access, Fox Pro, DB2. Okay, these are different databases, Oracle and all. But these are they are not the databases. They are the database management systems. These are the softwares using which you can access your database. And according to the software, there may be some changes in how you are storing in the database or how you're accessing. Okay, so the main language that we use to access the database, like how we use Java, C, Python, and all, they are the programming languages to do some programming to make the CPU execute certain instructions. We are doing the programming. So to access the database, which language do we use? Anyone knows? Yes, any idea? Which language we use to access the database through the DBMS? Have you heard of SQL, SQL, structured query language? Have you heard anything of this?
Yes.
Okay. So how many of you all already know SQL? It is a language used to access the database. Anyone knows? You can type me in the chat box, or you can say also. Anyone knows SQL basic commands like select, alter, delete, modify, insert, just basics. Anyone knows? Anyone has tried or anything you know about it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. No worries. We are starting from the basics only, so no problem. So MySQL is another DBMS. It is a software to access the database called as database management system. And the way you write your queries in SQL, we don't have instructions or statements. In SQL, we have queries, and we don't means the correct terminology is known as firing the queries. You may say executing programs is equal to firing queries. Okay. Now there are different types of databases and database models. Like it may be a hierarchical model or a network model, relational model, object-oriented model. There are different ways in which the database may be structured and how we are accessing it. There are different models of the database and its management system. So if you consider hierarchical, you know there's a hierarchy. Parent to child, we go on. That is a hierarchy, right? So this is one. I'm just giving you an overview. What we are going to use is very simple. Then network database, it has records. It is not actually in the tabular format. It is quite complex and quite powerful. Okay. Then this is your relational database, which we are going to use in our programs. Relational database means the tables that you have in a database are related to each other. They have a particular relation with each other. And based on that relation, you can communicate between the tables. See, these are the tables that I was talking about. And in each table, you have columns and rows, right? We have seen matrices. Matrices also have columns and rows. So if you ask me what are the columns are these vertical columns, and rows are these horizontal rows. So these rows may be also called as records or entries in the table, and the columns are the columns and the names of the columns. They are called column names, or you can call them attributes of the relation. This table can be represented in a relation format also. That you learn in ER model, an entity relationship model. You have a particular diamond, then arrows then you have particular entities. Okay, there are different things by which you can represent these tables. These tables we use in the programming. In our computer, we'll store the data in these tables. But on paper, if you want to represent the relation between the tables, you'll use such diagrams. It is similar to a flowchart, but not a flowchart actually. Clear till here?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
So where you use them, wherever you want to store data, for example, your bank accounts. If you don't have a database, where you'll store all the data, right? So in banking, you have it, railway system, airlines, wherever you want to store data for using it in future. Persistent, it should be present. Libraries, schools, colleges, social medias, to store all your posts that you give on Facebook. They also, some data must be stored related to that, where it is stored in some database. YouTube and all, they use MySQL for the management system. Online shopping. Okay. Now, I've taken these slides from NPTEL lectures. So the general purpose is to handle the data, and this data and the database that I'm talking about, it will be stored in the disk or the secondary storage. It means in the permanent memory space, not your RAM. RAM is what, if you switch off the power, all what is inside the RAM will get erased. It is volatile memory. But your hard disk, your secondary storage devices, your USB, CD, and all that, you can store data as long as you want. Only if you want to delete, you can delete it. Automatically, it will not get deleted. So it is persistent and it is on the disk. So retrieving becomes easy because you don't have to again do the same process. It is already stored, available, and you have to simply access it. And even if there is some failure in your computer, if there is some failure and you're using file handling, you're not using databases, you're using file handling, then the files may get lost if the disk gets formatted or something like that. But in DBMS, those such things happen, you can easily recover. Okay, it's like already it is having a backup, like, okay. Then in files and records, it is used for storing data, but there may be wastage of space, data redundancy. Now, one main issue is, suppose there are 2 3 users and they want to access the same data. Suppose user 1 makes any changes in the data, then user 2 and 3 also should get the same changes. Means always the updated data should be available for all. Otherwise, if you are working on the previous stale data, then it will give you problems in your software. Whatever updates are done, they should be shared with all the users. But in file handling, what happens? You may be having the file, the same copy of the file user 2 will be having. If the files are different, you're having copies of the file and you're making some changes, then it will not get shared automatically between other users. But if you want all this to happen automatically, you'll use a database, and using the management system, the queries will be fired. Whatever changes are done using the queries, that will be done in the database, and all the users can access the database. No need to share the database again and again. Whatever database is there, changes will happen in that, and all the users will always get the updated latest data. So this is another use of database. Automatically it will happen. Recovery system is also good in database. System failure, or maybe if there's a fire or a short circuit, means there may be physical disasters also due to which the machine or computer or servers are getting damaged. In that case also recovery is possible. Then DBMS gives you flexibility, data independence. Your programming logic is somewhere and your data is stored somewhere, and that is what is appreciated. And you use SQL for this. Okay. Then different types of databases. Centralized database means there's only one database and everyone is accessing it. Distributed database means there are multiple instances of the database. It is that same database, or maybe a part of the database is present on different machines. So it is distributed over different machines, not a single machine. Why? If a single machine goes down, then maybe for some time your database will become inaccessible because the database is on that machine. But if the database is stored on multiple machines, then even if one machine goes down, that you say server has gone down, then also no problem. From the other machine, you can access it. Then relational database is what we are going to use. As I told you, relations are there. Now, whatever databases are there are two types. One is called SQL database and one is called NoSQL database. Now, NoSQL means not that NoSQL. NoSQL means what? Not only SQL. NoSQL means not only SQL. Means along with SQL, something else. So there are two types of databases, SQL database, NoSQL database. What we use is SQL database, structured query language. And cloud database means what? The database is stored on the cloud. Cloud is nothing but, it is a collection of some remote servers. Server is nothing but a machine only, a computer only, but it is dedicated for serving people's requests. Means you have your machine acts as the client, and the server is actually the host, or the one who provides you the response. So you will request the server. The client, that means your machine, will request something, and where that request goes, it goes to the server. That server, if it is capable to fulfill the request, it will respond. Okay, so this is request response cycle. There's another cycle called as publish subscribe. Okay, there are different ways you can do it. Then this is cloud database. Remote servers are there, means the data is somewhere else and you can access it. And a cloud, you know that you can store large volumes of data, and 24/7 access is there. So there are different features. If you turn off your machine maybe, and on your machine the database is there, then maybe it becomes inaccessible. So such things will not happen in the cloud. Okay. Then object-oriented means what? These databases have some concepts of object-oriented programming. Hierarchical, I showed you tree-like diagram. We have seen hierarchical inheritance, similar to that. Network database, it is usually used to connect to the network and all. How it is, it has a special structure and all, which I showed you in terms of records. Personal database means only for your use you have created the database. Operational database, enterprise database means for the companies. They may share their database with other companies and so on. Then NoSQL database, in that you have a particular way of storing data. There you don't have tables. In NoSQL database, what is the full meaning of NoSQL? I just now said, what is the meaning of NoSQL? Anyone remembers?
Not only SQL.
Yes, very good. Okay. Because sometimes people think what? NoSQL means NoSQL. No, it is not only SQL. Then how you store data in not only SQL databases, using key value pairs. You know dictionary in Python, there also we have key values. Here also we have that. Then document oriented, you have graphs. Graphs means what? The nodes are the actual computers or the servers, and the relation between the servers is represented by the edges. If you have studied graph data structure, you might understand. Then properties of relational database. Relational database has certain acid properties. Acid means not your chemical acid, but it means that atomicity, consistency, I stands for isolation and D stands for durability. if I want to give you an example of all this, the best example is bank management system. In banks, what happens? First of all, we use it for transactions. Transaction in the sense what? The transaction may be you want to store some money or you want to obtain some money, means storing, retrieving, withdrawing, depositing money. So sometimes it may happen that you're doing online banking, you have come across up till the last step. Only the OTP has also come. You have entered the OTP. Now the loading, the buffering is happening, and you're waiting when the success page appears. Like it says, no, your transaction was successful. You're waiting for that particular page, but maybe suddenly your Wi-Fi goes off. That time, what will happen? It will get stuck. The operation will not proceed further. It will keep on loading, and then finally, after some time, it may say it is inaccessible or whatever like that. That means what? All the transactions that you did till now, maybe you transferred money or you removed some money from your account, all that you have done it, but the final success page has not come. In such cases, what will happen? All the operations that have happened till now will get rolled back. All of them will go back in the reverse order. That means what? Either all the operations must be performed, or in case at one position somewhere you have a failure, so at some point the operation is not performed successfully, then all the operations performed before that which was successful have to be cancelled or rolled back. That means either everything should happen or nothing should happen, right? Otherwise what happens? You are transferring money, then the 100 rupees has been subtracted from your account, but it has not been added to the your friend's account. That means what? The money has not reached your friend, but it has been removed from your account. Is this desirable? Yes or no?
No.
No. So this is what? Either both withdrawing and depositing should happen, or none of them should happen. So this is the meaning of atomicity. Is it clear what is atomicity?
Yes.
Okay. Then consistency. For example, you have 100 rupees, your friend has 200 rupees. Now you transfer 50 rupees from your account to your friend's account. Then what will happen? Okay, I'll write it and show you. You have 100 rupees and your friend has, suppose, 200 rupees. You are removing 50 rupees from your account and you're adding it in your friend's account. Okay, so after performing this transaction, you will have 50 and your friend will have 250. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, initially, before the transaction, what was the total amount? 100 plus 200 was 300. And after the transaction also, what is the total amount? 50 plus 250 means your account balance plus your friend's account balance is 300. And after the operation also, the balance is 300 only. That means it is consistent. Whatever operations you perform, initial and final conditions should match. Okay, not necessarily always the amount will be same, but what I mean to say, it should match. It should not be that some amount is lost somewhere on anything. That is called consistency. Is it clear? Now, isolation means suppose you are doing some transaction on your machine, and also a person B, means another person is doing transaction on his machine. So whatever you're doing on your machine, it should not affect the other person's machine. Means you may be doing some checking your balance, transferring money, and in Madhya Pradesh, one more person is doing his own transactions. Are these two transactions related? You both don't even know each other. You're doing the transaction on your own system. Will it affect each other? What do you think?
No.
No.
No. So this is isolation. Means whatever you do, others need not know it unless you are interacting with that person. Next is durability. Durability means what? At the time, at 6 p.m., your balance was this. Then you did some transactions. Then say at 7 p.m., this is the condition. You have 50 rupees. Now next day, you go get up at suppose 10 o'clock. At 10 a.m., okay, next day, you're checking your balance. So what should be the amount in your account?
50.
Yes, 50. It should not happen that morning you get up and it has become 20 rupees. That is not expected because you have not done any transaction throughout the night time. This is called durability. So are these four conditions clear for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Then you in NoSQL databases also you have certain conditions. Like how in SQL you have ACID properties. In NoSQL you have basic properties. as you know, acid and base, they, if you bring them together, they give the neutralization reaction that you have studied in chemistry. Okay, so acid plus base gives what? Anyone remembers chemistry? Acid plus base gives salt and water, right? Anyways, so you have acid properties for SQL databases, and in NoSQL you have base properties. Base stands for, B stands for basically available. Actually, BA stands for basically available. Then S stands for soft state, and E stands for eventually consistent. Okay, so what this means and all, we are not interested in that. Anyways, I just shared it with you. Okay, then this was about introduction, why you need databases and how it is used and all that. Okay, is it clear till here?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any doubts you can ask me now related to this much, and then we'll continue. Now there is some installation process that you need to do. How many of you all have installed Eclipse and Tomcat server? Or at least you have downloaded some things and kept. Okay, some people have done it. Anyways, you have time still, uh, because we are not using serverless programming now. So whatever IntelliJ idea you have now, you can use that for Java database connectivity programs. By the way, why we are studying SQL instead of studying Java? Because just a minute, I'll open that for you. So you have studied object-oriented programming in core Java. You know what is data, how to handle it and all using programming, and you know what is logic. Now we need to separate data from logic. So whatever data is there, that will be stored in database, and how to access it by providing an interface for the user. Always you cannot go to the database, or means you cannot go to the backend and execute whatever you want. At the front end, some beautiful interface should be visible, and there may be a GUI, graphical user interface. Like as you can see here, this is my desktop. If you see just your command prompt, that is just a black screen. Is this attractive? No, and it is very inconvenient to use. But GUI, what it is, just click something and something will open for you. That means an interface to interact with the backend is called your front end. Means front end is what you can see, back end is what, which will help you to perform some operations. So your logic will be implemented using Java, and using that Java implementation, you have to access the database. This is for web development actually. Otherwise, normal SQL language will also do it, but using Java, you can access the database. That is why we need to connect Java to the database. That is called as Java database connectivity. So that using Java, we can interact with the database. So Java can be used as a backend language. We are going to use Java, and Java will access SQL, and SQL will access the database. This is how it will access. Java will not directly access, it will access SQL. SQL will access the database. 1 minute, give me some water. Yeah. So this is why we are studying Java database connectivity. Now for installation process, what you do, you have your IntelliJ idea, and you have to install SQL Server. SQL Server is another database management system. Like how I showed you MySQL, Oracle and all. SQL Server is another management system. And this is the interface of that. Just a minute. Okay, so here you'll be writing your queries, and using that query, you can interact with the database. Now, how to download the software is, first of all, if you're on your laptop, you do one thing. You open your command prompt. You can type CMD over here in your search bar, and this is your command prompt. Click on it. This black screen will open. Just type here Java C space hyphen version and click enter. Can anyone do this and tell me? I am getting Java C 15.0.1. So this is the version of my Java, of my JDK, Java 15. Can anyone tell me what is their version on their system? Quickly.
What is the command?
This is the command Java C space hyphen version. Hyphen means a minus sign. Yes. It is 17.
Bhaiya,
It
it
is
shows
showing
me
Java.
Java 17.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
same.
what you have to do, whatever driver I have now, one more thing, Java to connect to the database or to access the database or to access SQL first. As I said, first Java will access SQL and then SQL will access database. So this relationship between Java and SQL cannot happen directly, right? For example, if you are speaking in English and I am speaking in Hindi or I am speaking in some other language, then if I don't know English and if you don't know Hindi, then can we communicate? Yes, can we communicate?
No.
No. That means if the languages are different, they cannot communicate. Then how they communicate is already whoever are the developers of SQL and Java, they have developed the particular driver. Now in this context that I know English, you don't know Hindi or something like that, in order to understand each other, what we will need, what do you think? We'll need a translator in between, right? That person should know both English and Hindi. So that when I speak in Hindi, that person will understand. He will translate and convert to English so that you can understand. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here also we need a translator, but it is called as driver in case of Java and SQL, or in case of any programming language. This is how they interact in some cases, that you need a driver. That driver should be compatible with your Java version. For example, I have Java 15 as you saw. So I have to install the driver which can understand Java 15. If, as you said, you have Java 17, suppose, then you need the driver for Java 17. Okay, so it should be compatible. It should be able to understand. So how you can get this driver, and from where you have to download this SQL Server Management Studio. This is called SQL Server Management Studio. So you go over here. This is the link. I'm putting it in the chat box. Someone can share it on the group also. This is to download the SQL Server interface, the Management Studio, where you'll write your queries. Okay, this you have to install. If you want, you can install MySQL also. This is SQL Server that I'm using. You can install MySQL or you can install Oracle or whichever database you want. But if you are getting some errors over there, I may not be able to help you that much because I have this system installed, that is SQL Server, as my database management system. So just for uniformity, so that everyone has the same platform, install SQL Server itself. And I'll share you the video also how to install it. Using this link only how to install. And the next is for the translator called as driver. For that, another link is there, that is this one. And this SQL Server is a product by Microsoft. So we are using that one. This next link is for downloading the driver. Now, if you go and see in the downloading the driver, that page, you will be able to see there is 9.4, then some features, some compliances, everything written. Then you have 9.2. Then you have some other 8.4. That means what? These are the different versions of the driver. Now, how you'll know which version you have to download is if you scroll little down. See, this is for 9.4. Now here you have to download it. You can see zip over here. Zip means this file. If you download, this is a zip file. If you download this, it is suitable for Windows operating system. This tar.gz, it may be suitable for Mac or Linux. So if you are using Windows, you have to download the zip file. Okay, just click on this link and it will start downloading the driver. Okay, driver it is. Now, how you know whether this will work for your system or not? If you see a 9.4 compliance, what it is saying, compatible with Java Development Kit version 16. Okay, so will this work for my system? I have Java 15, so it will not work. If I go further down, I can see version 9.2. 9.2 also has the zip file. And here in the compliance, what it is written, compatible with JDK 15. So this one I will download for myself. Okay, now suppose you don't find any compatible one here. Means I think it is starting from Java 16 only, as you can see here. Then what you'll have to do, you'll have to download JDK version 16. And then you'll have to download this driver. Okay, if you have Java 17, you try to search for the driver if it is available somewhere, because on this page I cannot see it. If it is found, no problem. Otherwise, you download the JDK version 16 and then this particular driver 9.4. Okay, I don't have a problem because I have Java 15 and I have the version 9.2 of the SQL driver for that. Similarly, you may have Java 1 also, no problem for that. As you can see, the different versions are there. Okay, for 8.4 you have the driver, and 8.4 is compatible with Java version 14. Okay, so you try to check this out. Otherwise, it will not work. Okay, it should be compatible. So this is for the driver. And once you download that driver, for example, here I have downloaded it here. This is that zip file which has come here. I have extracted it by right clicking and saying extract here. This is what I have got. So as you can see, I'm clicking in this, and you keep on clicking, and here you'll get to see some jar files, JAR files. These jar files are important for you. Now you can see here JRE15. Can you see this written here, JRE15? Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, this is the file that I have to use in my IntelliJ IDEA. So how I have to do it is, in your IntelliJ IDEA, what you will do, if you want to create a program which can handle or interact with SQL and databases, you have to create a project first of all. Click on File, New, New Project. When you click on Project, this will open. Click on Next. Create project from template, check this, Next. Then you can give your project name as Demo JDBC or whatever your name you want to give. And then I'll click on Finish. And I'll open it in a new window. Now this will take some time to set up, as you can see. Okay, wait for some time, immediately don't do anything. Now you have to include that jar file which I showed you over here, this file. What you have to do, File, Program Structure, Modules, Dependencies, plus icon, jars or directories. Okay, you'll see the recorded video when I send you, it will become clear that time. Now I'm explaining a little fast. No need to do it now, okay? Just see what I'm doing. Then click on jars or directories. Now, wherever that, where I have stored that file in my downloads folder. So that downloads folder, you'll have to search here. So it is in my C drive, downloads, C drive users. You have to search for it, okay, over here, downloads. And in that, I have SQL driver folder. In that, I have, see, this is that file. Can you see it? It is the same file which I showed you over here. Okay, you have to find it over here like this. Is it clear how you have to find it?
Yes.
Okay, then double click on this or single click also and click on OK. Then click on Apply, then click on OK. So now your program or your project or your package is capable of handling the JDBC programs, Java Database Connectivity programs. This is how you have to do it for the projects which are handling JDBC programs. Now, another thing that you have to do is, in that folder, you go to the AUTH, authorization, auth file. Then go to x64. Here you can see one DLL file. This file has to be inserted in your system, in your Windows system folder. So that folder where you'll get, I'll show you. This all things, I'll send you a video in detail about this. For now, I'm just sharing here. You have to go for your C drive in that Windows folder and in that system32 folder. And here you have to paste this DLL file. Okay, I've already done that. So if I search for that file, see, I've got it here. Okay, so I've already done that pasting. This also you have to do, otherwise you'll get errors. Okay, so this much when you do it, then only it will be possible. And there are some other things like if you go for SQL Server 2019 Configuration Manager, you click on yes. It will open up a configuration system. Make sure that protocols for MS SQL Server your TCP IP port is enabled. If it is disabled, what you do, right click and click on enable. And right click, go to properties, click on IP addresses, and go full down and check that TCP port is 1433 or not. This is the default port from which your processes will run if those processes or programs involve JDBC uh, code. Okay, if the programs have JDBC commands and all this that related code, then on which port number it will execute. Port is nothing but on your machine there are so many processes that are executing. One is Google Meet is going on now, WhatsApp is open, my command prompt is open. So all these processes are executing on different ports, and each port has a particular number. Using that number you can identify which port is executing which process. So for the SQL and database related processes, the default port is 1433. You can change it also, but don't change it. And if the port is executing something else and you're assigning so many tasks to that port, it is not possible. Okay, then also once you enable it, what you have to do, go to SQL services, right click on this first thing and restart. Okay, so there are different things. One thing also, if you do wrong, it will not work. Okay, and then I was stuck for 1 week. Okay, when I was installing this on my system for 1 week, I was stuck because I had not installed the correct driver version. My TCP port was disabled. All those things I had to explore, and I have myself done that. Okay, but for you, I'm telling you now. After doing all these things, first of all, you have to create the database. In your program, how to access the database that you will write. This is the sample program, how to access the database. But for that, first of all, database should be ready. To keep the database ready, you have to come to your SQL Server Management Studio, like how you have Android Studio, IntelliJ IDEA. This is also a development environment where you can write the queries. Now, those of you who know SQL, can you name some queries for me?
Yeah, like I have worked in MySQL. So how it is used to work is I used to first enter the password, then I used to enter in the database, then I used to create the name of the database. Like first I used to write use, then the name of the database, then it will fetch the data. Matlab, if it is already created, it will fetch all those data, and if it is not created, a new database will be created, and then accordingly I used to pass the commands.
Yes, very correct. Whatever you said, very good. So that is what, yeah. And which commands or which queries you used to use in that? Can you tell me?
Uh, just a second. Actually, I'm not able to recall.
No problem.
Just a second.
No, it's
Actually, I
okay.
have done it like 2 years ago. So
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
why.
no problem.
Create database and then database name.
Yeah. So yeah, then you have different queries like select, insert, delete. You might have heard that. Okay, so that's what we'll just brush up on whatever SQL we require, and then we'll go on further. Okay, so just give me a minute. Okay, so in this SQL server, actually, I've already opened it and come in the correct place. But what you have to do, when you open it, this window will display, this dialog box. And then here you get to see your name of your laptop or desktop, whatever it is. There are different ways also. You can search for other things. Then authentication to enter this database to get the access. You can use Windows authentication so that every time you don't have to enter the password and username and all that. Then you have different options wherein you can mention which protocol, TCP IP or whichever protocol. You can seek help also over here. When you click on help, you'll get some help online on the internet also. But no need actually of clicking on that help thing. And then you can simply click on connect. Okay. So it will open up here. This will open. And then you can click, actually this will not open. Uh, how you'll get this blue color screen. Then what you have to do, you have to click on Control O, or you can simply go to File, Open. or simply Control O is the shortcut to open any file. If you have already created some file, then this is that file. You can click on this and open it. Or if first time you're creating, what you'll have to do is File, New, Query with current connection. Click on this. It will open up a new workspace, a new file. But since I've already done some work over here, so I'll open this file. So we'll start from the beginning. First of all, you have to create a database. Inside the database, you can have multiple tables. Now, some things that I'm telling you, I have not created any presentation or notes for that. So what I'm expecting is one person among you or whoever wants to do it, you have to write down the notes. Whatever you are seeing in this video, after you get the recording, create your own notes on this topic, like what is database, all that things, whatever I explained till now, why we need driver, what is JDBC, all that, whatever I explained, create your own notes and upload it in the Google form that I'll provide you on that sheet. And whoever notes is the best and good handwriting and presentation, that I'll share with everyone, and they'll get an advantage. Okay, in this course, they'll get more marks or something like that. I'll plan that. Okay, so not now, but when you get time, neatly write down the notes, and whoever is the best, that I will share with others. So now we are going to create the database first. To create database, the command is create. Now you can now there are certain keywords here also in your SQL language, and usually people write it in capital, but simply caps lock I have to on it, off it, or simply shift and I have to type. So instead of all that, I'm writing it directly. Okay, create database and the name of the database, suppose JSPM, and then semicolon. So this will create a database inside which afterwards you have to create multiple tables. Now to execute this, you can click on this execute, and message has come. Okay, this execute message has come, commands completed successfully. Now you have created the database, so you have to create tables inside this database. For that, just a minute. Okay, so now to create the tables, the command is create table, whatever name of the table you want to give. So for example, let me give the name SE students. Okay, you can give any name, and then your parenthesis, and after the closing parenthesis, semicolon. Here also semicolon is a must. If you don't give semicolon, it will consider that whole thing as a single query. Here, if I forget semicolon, it will think that this whole thing is a single query. So here semicolon means this is one query. This is the next query. Now to create the columns in the table, there are different ways you can do it. So first of all, you have to specify column name. Okay, this also you write down in your notes. What is the syntax? How you will write down? Create table, table name. Then in the bracket, you must write column name. Okay, step by step, you write down these notes. Now I'm just not, it will waste time, so I'm not doing it. So if you want to have the columns like roll number, you will write roll number, space, what type of data will the roll number column hold? It will hold integers. So you can write int. Then some conditions you can write on this column. What conditions? For example, each entry in the column should be filled. For example, you may have certain columns, like how in your Excel sheet, you have rows and columns. Similarly, in your tables, you'll have rows and columns. So what is happening actually is you have your database called JSPM. In that, you have a table called SE students. Then you have a table. Okay, you can create your table over here. In that, you have to give the columns like roll number, then name, age, date of birth or address, whatever you want. Okay, these are the columns. Now this roll number, for example, 1, 2, 3. Suppose I miss roll number 4. I write 5. I write 6. That means what? In this particular cell, or you can, yeah, cell you can say. So this is row wise and this is column wise. So in this particular cell, there's no value. So that value is called as null. If there's no value, it is called as null. But every student should have a roll number. So it cannot be null here. So such conditions you can enter, that roll number column should never have a null value. So here you can write not null. This is another keyword, not null. And the space is there between them. because not can be used separately also for some other purposes. Not null means all the values should be present. Then there are different constraints. This is to create the roll number column. Then to create the next column, which is our next column, name. So you'll put a comma and you can write on the same line only, no problem. But just to make it clear, I'll go on the next line. Now, unless you give a semicolon, everything is considered as a single line only. This whole thing will be considered as a single line. But to represent it properly, for the next column, I'm going on the next line within the bracket, okay? And then I'm writing name. Now, name is what? What kind of data type will be stored inside the name column? What do you think?
String.
Exactly, okay, strings. But in SQL, it is not called as string, it is called as varchar, or sometimes char also. Difference between varchar and char is char will give you a specific fixed size, but varchar will give you variable size. Var means variable. Means what? If your char has size 50, then only 50 characters can be stored in that. But if your varchar has 50, then you can store 2 characters, you can store 3 characters, up to 50 characters. But if you have char, then compulsory 50 characters should be stored. But varchar means what? It will allocate space only for 10 characters if it is varchar 10. If it is varchar 200, then up to 200 characters you can store. The size is variable, but in char size is fixed. This also you write down in your notes. Then, so varchar and how many characters? Suppose the name may be of 20 characters, then I'll put a bracket over here for varchar in the bracket 20. Then I can also give here the next column, and this also should be not null because everyone has a name, right? This also can be not null, comma. Our next column is age. So for age, what should be the data type? Anyone?
Integer.
Yes,
Int.
so I'll write int. So maybe some person's age is not known or something like that. So it is okay. It may be a null value. Somewhere you may find null values in your table. That's okay. It depends on the application actually. If you want, you can make it not null or you can make it null. Then you can also have the next column, which is address. What should be the data type of this column? Yes?
Varchar.
Yes. And maybe maximum limit of how much you can specify characters is 255. Okay, so 255 is specifying. And this also you may have the address, you may not have the address or whatever. And you can give certain default values also. Means if the user does not enter his address, then by default his address will be considered as the default value. Like how you have default parameters in C++, so that you can write default and what should be the default value. So you can use a single quote over here. Single quotes are used for the varchar, and you can write your Pune. So if the address is not entered, then by default Pune will become the address of that person. If you specify Bombay or something, then Pune will not come, Bombay will come. So this is what the 4 columns. Now I have already created the database, so I only have to create the table. But if you click on this execute, whatever is written over here, everything gets executed. Okay, but what I want to do, already database is created. I only want to create the tables. So if you want to execute selected items from this file, what you'll do, select that thing like this, you have to select it, means you have to click and drag like this, and then click on execute. Otherwise, if you click on execute, then what will happen? Again, it will try to create database and you'll get an error because database already exists. So select this and then click on execute. So as you can see, commands completed successfully. Now, is there any data over here in the rows? Is there any data in this table which I've created? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay. So to insert some data, we use the command like, anyone knows what is the query? The query is insert only. Okay. Like for delete, you have delete or you have drop also, and sometimes then so inserting the rows, the values in the rows. So you will write your insert into values. Insert into the name of the table. What is the name of the table? SC students. Insert into table name. what you have to insert? Some values, and those values you will specify here. Like roll number is 1, suppose, comma, name can be within single quote. Okay, then comma, you can write the age, then I can write the, maybe she is from Delhi, and then semicolon. So insert into table name what? The values and these values. So this particular command I want to execute. So will I click on execute directly? Yes or no?
No.
So
No, we
what
will
I should
select.
do to execute? Yes, first of all, select this and then click on execute. So it will, it depends, the output depends on how many insertions you have performed. For now, only one row has been inserted. So after this insert command, what will happen? For now, you have 1 Sonali, 21 Delhi. This should be the output when you read the database. So now we have inserted successfully. If there is some error, if you miss out, suppose I don't give the roll number, then what it happens, if I don't give means roll number is null, but roll number is not null. It cannot be null. That time you get error. So here, how many ever columns are there? Those many data items or elements you have to pass here. Now, if you want to reduce the number of passing and all that, we'll see that later. But for now, let us see what has got stored in our database. To do that, you have to use a select query. Select which columns you want to see. Suppose I want to see all the columns, then I'll say select asterisk, means your multiplication sign. Select all, this stands for all, okay? Select all the columns. It means that select all from table name. What is my table name? SE students. And then semicolon. What this will do is it will display whatever is stored in your table, okay? Whatever is stored in the table. Now I have to execute this, and you can see the font, actually I'm not able to increase it for now. I have to check the settings. We'll do that later, but I hope you can see this. Roll number, name, age, address, 1 Sonali, 21 Delhi. Can you see this output?
Yes.
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 Okay. So this is what has been stored in the table. You can store multiple such records in the table. You can have another insert statement. Now, as I said, this default Pune. So I may not want to enter the address. So let us see that also now. Now, one advantage here is you can write the queries anywhere, top, down, bottom, means before creating the table also you can write this insert. But when you're executing, you have to be careful. So for example, I'm writing the insert thing over here. So what if I want to execute? First of all, I will create the database, means I'll select this and then execute. Create table, select this and then execute. After that, insert, select this and then execute. Or if you don't want to do this, what you'll have to do, you'll have to maintain the order. Create database, create table, and then insert. But here I have the advantage that it depends on me which commands I want to execute. I can do that. That is why the order is not important actually. Okay, but we'll maintain the order. That is a good practice. So insert into SE students. Now I want to give the default as Pune. So I will not enter the fourth data. So here I'll also change the roll number, and you can have duplicate names and all, that is no problem. If you want unique, then you have to give the, instead of not null, you can write unique also here. That time all the rows have to have different values. Means the name Sonali cannot get repeated again if it is a column which has the unique values. Okay, but for now repetition is allowed. So here I can write another name. Okay, and I don't want to insert this record again. I only want to insert this one. So I'll select only this one and execute. And you also need to specify the column names. Here you'll have to specify the columns because you're not entering the data of all the columns. That is why it is giving the error. That means number of supplied values does not match. That means in specific columns, these 3 data values should go. That means here after this SC students table name, you have to give brackets and say which columns you want. I'm going to insert it in the roll number column. comma in the name column, comma in the age column. So in roll number 2 will go, in age, in name Ruchi will go, in age 20 will go. Okay, if you are specifying all the columns values, then no need to specify column names. But if you are missing out on some column values, then you have to specify the column names. Okay, here suppose I don't want to enter 20. Here I want to say Pune or whichever city. Then instead of age, what I'll write here? Anyone?
Address.
Yes, address will be there. So whichever column you are going to insert, that column name. For now, we are going to go for age, okay? Because I want to show you default is Pune. So now I'll execute this. See, now there's no error. And one row is affected. Why? Because one row you have inserted. Now if I no need to write again the select query. Why? I can directly select from here, means select and execute. So now you can see roll number 1 address was Delhi, and now roll number 2 address is Pune. But I did not specify Pune. By default, it is Pune. Is it clear? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are the ways of inserting. Yes. Some doubt you're asking me? Anyone? Okay. So you try to install this SQL Server. Um, and for now will not be means you can install the driver, but you have some time for that, and try practicing this select, insert and all that, and try to refer some videos also so that you get to know about the queries and all. Okay, if you want to go in the advanced level of this. And we'll stop here for today, and you can tell me your doubts and put your attendance in the chat box. Any doubts? Was it interesting? Something different like we did today? Otherwise, till now we were doing object-oriented programming. Was it interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes. So every application needs a database. You just name the application and you may realize that yes, you need a database to store the data. Because without storing data, usually there are no applications as such, right? In everywhere, even in your Android apps, you have a database somewhere to store your college details and all. You need databases and all. So many examples. And any doubts? And prepare those notes, okay? And I'll share the link in the sheet, and you can upload it. Shall we end the session if you don't have any doubts?
Hello, Bhaiya. Uh,
Yes.
I have installed before servlets. I've actually installed NetBeans. So would it be okay if I work on NetBeans?
It will work. I mean, no problem. But usually it is okay. But people usually don't use NetBeans for that. Means there's no problem with that. But just for uniformity, I wanted you to have this Eclipse ID. But no problem, you can use NetBeans. But if you're getting some errors, I may not be able to help you that much because I have to install NetBeans on my system also then. So you can try if you want, but there's no problem. You can use it.
And also, like I have been having an experience with MySQL also. So is it okay if I work on MySQL?
Yes, yes, you can work there.
Actually, I've analyzed the difference between the code of the syntax of SQL and MySQL. For example, the insert into. So the insert into command in MySQL is all in uppercase, that is
That you
alphabets
can
are all
use
in
here
uppercase.
also. That's
But
not an
here
issue.
in SQL, it was
You can use capital. I actually it is capital only. It is just a way of writing, nothing to do with the syntax or anything. Means it is
okay,
just
okay.
to indicate that this is a keyword. Okay, you can use capital here. But this SC students is case sensitive. Means what? Here, if I make this capital S, then this is a different table now. It will not recognize the table. So these table names, column names, these are case sensitive. But these keywords are case insensitive. Means capital or small, anything will work. And you can see they're highlighted in blue also. And one more thing, SQL and MySQL, you cannot compare. SQL is a structured query language using which you will access the database called as MySQL. MySQL, Oracle, DB2, FoxPro, all these are the databases management systems. They will help you access the database using SQL. SQL is a language which is used to in the database management system. So MySQL is the database management system software, and SQL is the language that you'll use in that system. Okay. SQL is
Okay.
used in Oracle database also. Only thing, there may be some changes. SQL is the language used for interacting with any database, if it is an SQL database.
Okay. Where can you just run a command on your system, right? Describe DSC and the
Yeah.
table name,
Yes, you can do that here also. DSC, SC students.
database name.
Um, okay, I think so. It may give an error. Yeah, you can use DSC in MySQL. So I have MySQL also actually installed on my machine. There it should work. You have the password and all. Okay, there this DSC works. Okay, so some changes may be there, but there is a different way to describe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we have to explore that actually. Anyways, any other doubts?
No.
Okay, then I'll end this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome. Welcome.